And I just want to, again, thank both Rance and Keith for being here today, and then Jeffrey for that wonderful tour of the Peter series. Sorry. As we heard, the series pays homage to the Afro-Caribbean barbershops born out of unwillingness of white barbers in Britain to cut the hair of Afro descendants. To start, can either or both of you talk about the history of barbershops in the Afro or Black community here in the United States, and or more specifically in the St. Louis area?
Well, I guess from my standpoint, being the son of a barber, the history here has been definitely a part of my life, you know. I guess from age 11 on, I started working in the barbershop. And the whole aspect of the barbershop is a community thing. You know, like they say, a lot of guys say the black man's country club or whatever, you know, but it's definitely a very important part of the community. It's one place where African-American business people in particular, it was one of the most, you had more people in the hair business, in the barber business, as independent business people than probably any other business, especially in earlier times, especially back in the 40s, the 50s, and the 60s, you know, so. And it was definitely a very big part of my life, you know, I mean.
Well, I'll say for myself, the influence of the African-American barbershop in the city of St. Louis for me started as a child going to get my hair cut. Taking those visits to the barbershop and just seeing the strong black male figure, that was very important to me as a kid growing up without a father in the household. So that was one of the great influences that the African-American barbershop had on my life. And I'm sure in the community with other children as well, just the conversations that would go on and different things of that nature. Also for myself, I had a friend in the neighborhood, her dad was a barber. He's a retired barber now. He's been in the business, I want to say probably for over 40 years. Mr. Lee Moss, you familiar with him?
I am.
Okay, yeah, great man. But he was very influential in my life as well. And he was a pillar in the community out there in Webster Groves, Missouri. I'm sure some of you guys are familiar with that area, but it's a small black community, North Webster. And he had a staple there in the city of North Webster. And he did a lot in the community, and it was very influential. And he made a great impact, and that made a great impact on myself as well.
Thank you for that. Sorry, technical difficulties. Well, I know the next question I wanted to ask was, when did you first decide that you wanted to become a barber?
Wow. I decided that I wanted to become a barber. Actually, a lot of people here may remember, some people here maybe remember Kroger grocery store, but I worked for Kroger grocery store 1983 to 86. And after going through a union contract dispute and seeing that maybe it wasn't my best advantage to try to have a career at Kroger, I decided, hey, my best advantage would be to work with my dad. I got my license November 16, 1986. Kroger's left St. Louis in the same month. So, you know, that was no-brainer, you know.
Well, for myself, when I had hair, my sister used to cut my hair. And she messed me up really bad. And so I took it upon myself to cut my own hair, and I got pretty good at it. At that particular time, that's when the box style was in. So it was the hip-hop box style.
Yeah.
And so she just messed me up really bad. I don't even want to talk about the haircut, but I got pretty good at cutting my own hair, so I started cutting a lot of friends' hair in the community, and I just kind of fell in love with it. Once again, the guy Lee Moss, he came and did a career day at the school. And I just knew right then and there, sitting in that class, I remember like yesterday, I said to myself, that's what I'm gonna do. And from that point on, I just fell in love with it. And My senior year, I went to do an internship at his shop, and right after that, I worked in a place for maybe a year or two and opened up my own place. Yep.
Keith, your bio says that you were raised in the barbershop. Can you speak to this or explain this a bit more?
Yeah. 5 a.m. Saturday morning, Dad wake you up and it's time to go down to the barbershop. Matter of fact, you know, all of my brothers shine shoes in the barbershop. All of my brothers. And I was one, I wanted to do it, and my dad told me, no, you're not old enough, you gotta wait. I'm like, really? You know? And it was a great experience, of course, except for getting up at 5 a.m. in the morning, but you made a little extra money. You know, you're around your dad, a lot of good people. You had money for school the next week. As a matter of fact, if you didn't work, my dad said, I'm not gonna give you no money for school if you don't come to work. So, I mean, it was a wonderful experience. I also worked, like I said, I worked with another brother of mine. We worked together with my dad, and it was great. I mean, beautiful experience, you know. Yeah.
What role do you think the barbershop plays in the cultivation, perpetuation, and policing of the black male identity?
Either one.
Well, I was gonna say, like, just, I guess from like even when I started the conversation and I stated how, you know, when I went as a child and I would catch the bus to the barbershop, I used to go to Bowen Barbershop over on Kings Highway. And I think that, you know, just like I said, seeing a strong black male figure as a child, that played a great impact in my life, you know, by not having a father figure, like I said. And so the guys, they would pull me to the side, hold conversations with me. Hey, look, man, what you want to be when you grow up, this, that, and the other. And just for them to have that form of interest in my life, you know, just being one seed out of the black community, that played a large impact, and it did a lot, and it was a great influence in my life.
And for me, I think the whole ideal of, when you start talking communities and communal, you know, you start talking about the barbershop and the place where guys gather, you're grooming them, giving them different services, so you're making them feel better about themselves. You're having conversations that aren't just sometimes atypical what they may have in the street or on the job, you know, and it definitely has a very, very focal point in I think, nurturing and growing identities for some men and some boys. I definitely think that.
Yeah, from politics to religion to a little bit of everything.
Definitely.
This actually makes me think of something else. So we discussed the Afro or black barbershop being born out of exclusion from white society. Are there, are these same barbershops in turn excluding certain groups such as gay males, African, Afro-Caribbean, or other immigrant populations?
Well, in my barbershop, and I can only speak for my barbershop, the barber school I went to, I learned off of 85, 90% white hair. Of course, I worked in an African-American barbershop. And my dad's belief, even when he was on Grand and Hebert, and if you know where Grand and Hebert is, it's the midst of the hood. He's like, oh boy, you want to learn how to cut everybody's hair.
Right.
So, you know, and as far as gay men and all that, you know, my dad ideal about gay men was, hey, you know, they're people too, you know, and I mean, it's just a client, it's service, you know, and you don't look no different at him than you do any other male. So we invite everybody. I mean, we always have cut all type of hair, you know, all nationalities, doesn't matter.
Well, I'm in a pretty diverse area, so for me, there is no discrimination. I don't care, you know, what your belief system is. I like good people, you know, and you know, when you step into my place of business or, you know, the places that I've worked, for the majority, it's just been, we just attract great people, and that's what it's all about, you know, so, no.
What place What place do women have in the barbershop, either as workers or as customers?
Well, of course, in my barbershop, probably one of the best times was right around, I guess that was 1989. And my sister became a cosmetologist and a beauty shop owner. So we went from being Shaq's Barbershop to Shaq and Sons to Shaq's Barber and Beauty. So the woman role from an owner like my sister to now the braider and the person that does the locks to the mother who always brings the child in. You know, they play a very big role. To my mother holding my dad's hand and making sure, you know, that he, you know, was straight as a father, just as from a support aspect. So the woman plays a very big role, without a doubt.
Yeah, it also made it more so like, you know, where the whole family can come. Because in my place of business, we also have stylists. And so I've worked, even with my first place, I've had stylists that worked for me there. So it was a barber and, like he said, barber and beauty salon. So the whole family would actually come for service. So, you know, we wanted to actually create a nice family atmosphere, you know, and that's what we were able to achieve. So they play a great role in the barbershop.
Portia, we actually have a statement from the audience, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay, I'm Keith Shackleford's brother. I'm one of the guys that shine shoes in the barbershop. The early history of the African-American barber was a part-time job because you didn't get enough cuts to take care of your family. My father worked at the railroad, and he went to the barbershop afterwards. We worked the midnight shift. He would go to the shop in the morning. When I was in school, after school, I went and I shined shoes. But as far as being discriminatory, no. He cut everybody's hair that came into the shop because he needed the business to take care of his family. It was more or less a part-time job being a barber. You had to love it to keep doing it because just being a barber wasn't enough to take care of your family. You didn't have insurance to take care of your kids if they had to go to the doctor or the hospital or whatever. So you had another job. So that's the history of the early barber. Now, as you come along a little bit later, it's a little bit different. But the first barbers, they had a hard time. You had to love that job, that profession, to be in it. That's what I wanted to address. There was no discrimination. My dad cut everybody's hair that came through the door.
What does the barbershop mean to you in both your personal and cultural identities?
I mean, for me, it's my life. You know, it's definitely something that I've had some of my best memories there, and it's allowed me to make a living, to take care of myself and take care of my children, and to meet some of the most interesting people from the highest level to the lowest level, and it's definitely been a very humbling and just a grateful experience for me, definitely.
This is one of the professions that you just never necessarily know what the day holds for you. You know, so, you know, working in a barbershop is pretty adventurous. So, you know, I'm sure anyone that works in the barbershop or work in the beauty industry, you can attest to that. So for me also, this is my life. This is what I breathe. This is what I love to do. I wake up, think about it. I go to sleep thinking about it. You develop relationships with people that, you know, may have passed away on you, may have gotten ill. So they become more than just a client. Some of them, they become like really good friends of yours, you know, and you get to know their whole family. So, you know, it plays a great role.
Portia? I'm over here. I'm sorry. I've totally switched sides. Way over here. We have another audience comment.
Hi. I have a woman who cuts my hair, okay? But what I really wanted to compliment on is how intimate it is with a barber and a cosmetologist because they're touching your head, they're in your hair. However you feel that day, that conversation takes you one place or another. It's a very intimate experience. And you have to be a special person to do that when everybody comes through that door and they want to come back. So there's a talent there that I don't even know how we write a job description for it. So I just want to applaud you because I know I've been sitting waiting for my turn and I'll be wanting to tell somebody to go. You need to leave. But you all handle things extremely well, and I appreciate that. And I want to compliment you for being a part of the community. I know all that you give. I know what you give. I know what your family's been giving for years. Back when we didn't have the organized sports like Matthew Dickey and all that, they were sponsoring the corkball teams. Okay, so I go way back. And I know what you do in cutting hair for kids going to school. We lost one of our favorite ones, Black, last year with that horrible experience. But you guys, you've been doing a good job, so thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Rance, described by your bio as a social media superstar, what does it mean for the community?
I in my bio, by the way. I don't know who Rance is.
I follow him. He's a social media superstar. I follow him.
What does it mean for the community fostered by the barbershop to have migrated to the online sphere?
Right now, it almost means everything in a sense, in terms of it's free advertisement. It's a way to reach the public. You don't have to necessarily spend, like I said, it's free. You don't have to spend any money. You know, when I first started out, it was more so hand to hand. You had to pay money for some people did radio, some people, a lot of people did just hand to hand flyers or what have you, different things like that to drum up business. So for myself, when I started to see the turn take in social media, I jumped right on board. And I structured my page where I kept it extremely clean, and I pretty much just kept it all about business 100%. Even just my own thoughts in turn, I wanted them to be motivational. I didn't want them to say anything, you know, I went out partying last night, got wasted, you know, all that mess. But I wanted to keep it extremely clean so that when they would click on my page or they would see one of my posts, it would be something inspirational. It would be something that would attract them to come into my place of business. And so for myself, that was something I guess that was attractive to others, and it just kind of helped my page to grow. So from Instagram on over to Facebook, I can't necessarily even accept any more followers, which is a great thing, you know. So I could put a word out there, just like if I have anything going on, whether it be the back to school cuts for kids, or whether it's the Hustle and Flow poetry event that we host at the Barbershop, which we do every last Monday of the month, by the way. Shameless plug. But it works, and it's a way to reach the community. So I can reach the community from inside the barbershop as well as through social media. And this pretty much goes hand in hand now.
Portia, I'm back over here. We have another comment.
First of all, good day, everybody. My name is Kim Gardner, State Representative of the 77th District. This happens to be in my district, so hello. First of all, a comment on this young man right here, my colleague and friend, Rance Minor. We actually went to high school together. So,
don't tell them too much, Kim.
Oh, no. I'm not going to tell my age. They already know. So. But one of the things that I want to say when we talk about community, we talk about a young individual as himself as being a part of what's going on in the streets. So my history with Rance has been not only as a high school graduate with him, but as a politician and community person. He's helped me get into the community, and that's what we need more of. And I want to commend you for your stance on a lot of the issues that people don't give you credit for. So I want to thank you for those, you know, those things. So thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
But we need more of that, okay? Because we have a lot of issues facing us right now with not just Ferguson, but this region is in a crisis. So we need people to support people like Rance, and I'm sorry I don't know your name, but I know you are someone too, but I don't really know you, but you seem good. But one of my comments has been is, when I hear the history of barbershops, what do you think about the mental health component as being a barbershop person or beautician, because as you hear, a lot of African Americans come into the shop and they release their tension, stress from the day, from the issues that they face. And I think that I want you guys to go into kind of some of your issues with, you're like a psychologist in some ways to people dealing with their stress, the events, and we hear the events of our young people who feel like they're being oppressed, they're being disenfranchised in the community. So can you speak a little bit about that? So thank you.
As far as my experience with it, you have to listen to your client in particular and the people that you encounter every day just as well as you expect them to listen to you. So you first have to be a listener. You have to practice patience, and you have to be honest and responsible about whatever circumstances are going on. And we're not, I'm not right about everything, I'm definitely not that at all. And I think the whole thing is just honesty, patience, and listening. And that's all, because we get all, I'm in downtown St. Louis, so we get a little bit of everyone. We have homeless, we have all type of situations, and you hear a lot of different things. So try to be supportive and try to be honest and just tell people the truth, tell them the right thing, and hopefully it helps, Any other things that you can do, you try to get involved if you can, but more so than anything, you more so, like you said, we're more of a psychiatrist and a counselor at that point, at that time, so.
Pretty much summed it up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we've looked at the barbershop as a place for dialogue and community building. Can you now talk about it how it's a place for self-expression?
Well, yeah. It's, when you start talking about grooming yourself, hairstyles and things of that nature, that's a form of self-expression itself. We play satellite radio in the shop, and of course we got the TV on, and so there's a lot of different ideals coming out and with the different people, but it's definitely a place of self-expression, because I think as people, especially with your clients, as they become relaxed and comfortable, even the guy that walks by every day, it's a guy who walks by every day and he's like, yeah, man, yeah, you ought to take your barbershop and put a chessboard in there, and we'll be ruling the third and fifth. It'll bring forth conversation and so on and so forth. We get all forms of different type of expressions because you're dealing with a lot of different ideas and a lot of different mentalities. So it's definitely a place where it's welcome,
And just to add to that, we are artists within our own right. Just the different hairstyles that we create, which a lot of the hairstyles are coming back around again. Well, I'm seeing them come back around again. Yeah. So with that being said, I wanted to create an atmosphere even in my own place of business that will be set up for me to be inspired. So, we have a lot of art on the walls. The decor is a little bit different. Just to kind of help inspire me to be able to create, even when a client comes in, and to have me relax as well as the client. So those are my forms of self-expression, to be able to express to my client that comes in.
Rance, you've also won awards, right, for cutting hair?
Yes. Yes, I have.
I remember reading that and I was like, okay.
Yeah. Sure. That was I've done a few competitions. My first competition I was involved in, I want to say was maybe about 12 years ago. Won first place in that, and I stepped away from competing. And I just recently got back involved, maybe about a year and a half ago, in competing.
Is that like the hair shows?
Yes. And so this was a barbering competition. They're a lot different now from than when they first started. At first, they were more so like just barbering beauty shows, so to speak, where you would service your models and then bring your models out. Now the barbering competitions and the hair competitions, that you're actually like in combat on stage. So you have a barber on both sides of you, and they would give you a cut to do, and you have to perform it live on the spot. So we were in, my girlfriend, Cree, Styles by Cree, she's a stylist, by the way. We were in Houston, and I was like, I want to compete. So we drove down to Houston. Did I say I wanted to compete, or we was just going to the show? We were just going to the show, right?
Yeah, I think you competed, you decided at the last minute.
At the last minute. And so this was a pretty cool competition because it was a transformation competition. And what they did was they went to a homeless shelter, and they got some guys from a homeless shelter, and we had to give them a complete, total makeover live on stage. And the guy that I got, he gave me the most difficulties. It was crazy. So I cut the guy's hair, and he took a comb and went through it, and he was just doing all kind of stuff, just being hard, but I ended up winning. And so, needless to say, it worked, but thank God for that. But yeah, that was it. Yeah.
I don't need a microphone. I'm interested in what he was saying over there about how the barbershop used to be.
Mm-hmm.
For black men, it's sort of like we had certain places that we could congregate at and intermingle and discuss a lot of different things. Whether it's going to be a church,
Yeah.
that was a safe place for us.
Yeah.
Nobody bothered us. But in the barbershop, the barbers that I grew up in, the barbershops, the guys were, they had to be talented in all fields.
Yeah.
Number one, you had to be able to cut hair good. Because if you got a bad reputation, nobody would go back.
Yeah.
But not only that, it was the conversation. A lot of us grew up in the barbershop, even if we weren't getting our hair done.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I don't have any hair anymore, so I don't do that anymore. But back in the day, it was a place, I mean, you had the pool, you had pool tables there. I mean, when we was 11, 12, 13, you know, we were shooting pool. You know, we were shooting the old guys, you know, back in the back. But the conversation, you know, different ones would come in from out of town. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants to know where you go to get your hair cut. And so it was always a top barber that you would go to. And the conversations about everything, about life, about men learn how to become men. Yeah. Sometimes the bad way. But there was a lot of exchange that was going on that you were learning. And you were learning about, you know, entertainment. You were learning about just a whole variety of things. And that was it was a safe place for us to exchange ideas and to learn things. So it's always been, for me, a vital part of our history in growing up.
Were you going to a lot of barbershops here in the city of St. Louis, or?
No, I grew up in Alton. Okay. I grew up in Alton, and Dent Harris was my barber. Okay. And when you went into Dent barbershop, everybody would go into Dent or either Neiman Marcus, at Neiman, another barber. Uh-huh. Everybody would go in there, and any kind of conversation would come up there. And so it was just a place that we congregated at. As I say, even if we weren't getting our hair cut, you would go in there, you would shoot pool, or you would play cards, you do this, and there's always conversation going on. So there was a lot of exchange going on. So that's the history that I'm familiar with coming up. Yeah.
Isaac, did you want me to tell you about my history? Yeah. I'm Keith's sister. Keith is not saying a whole lot. He's a little laid back. But, and I can speak to a couple of the things that you asked them. One was, when we grew up, we have a very large family. Girls did not go to the barbershop. Females did not have a place in the barbershop. It was strictly for men. We did not go to the barbershop. No, type of. And so, of course, when my sister, but of course, that was many years later, there was integration with the sister, and then it became a family barbershop, and my dad always cut all races of hair. I do know that, and Keith does too. But I had the opportunity, believe it or not, to actually go in a barbershop and be serviced. Keith's barbershop, last year. My first time ever being serviced at a barbershop. Beauty salon, yes. It was quite a different experience. Just like what Keith said, if I didn't see a variety of diversity come through the door, from probably some people that were possibly homeless, but he greeted everyone, and my head, this is the whole time. Keith, who was that? Keith, who was that? Keith. I mean, they would come in and speak. One came in and started sweeping. I thought he was the janitor. Keith said, no, he just comes in here and sweeps. So, I mean, you know, but my dad was a very jovial person, extremely friendly, knew everyone, so he has that same personality. Keith has the same personality and probably runs the shop the same way. No one's a stranger, everyone's at home. I send him a lot of clients. All of my friends that go to him always talk about the conversation, and they say, anybody in your dad's shop can cut my hair. So obviously they were good. I know a lot of people that have been referred to Keith that come to St. Louis, just like what somebody said, when they come to town, they want to go to, who's a great barber to go to. The location is probably fantastic, Mid-City, it's still called Mid-City, Midtown, downtown. So, you know, a lot of things happen in the barbershop, but yeah, times have changed, diversity is in. I mean, it's no longer, and I like the idea of it being a family place. Even though hair transition has changed from that, which you might have thought at one time, oh, I won't make any more money because now everybody's going bald. But then there's something else to go along with that. Everybody's going natural, so you have a natural person in your salon. So it continues to evolve. I don't think it'll ever go away. The beauty salons will probably suffer more than a barbershop because they're much more diverse. A beauty salon is usually specifically women. So they on the right track. Congratulations to Family Barber Salon.
Yeah.
Beauty and Barber Salon.
I like to say as a stylist, it's almost, you know, kind of hand in hand. A lot of the hairstylists are now learning barbering techniques. Yeah, because, you know, we do a variety of clients, male, female. Yeah, so I think we're all going to
Probably would like to go to barbers.
But I'm a single parent, and I like the fact that the barbershops for men still. Like, I like that component. I like the fact that I can take my 5-year-old and, you know, Dr. K will come in, he'll say, go down the street, go get some coffee, I got him. And I get that break, and he has a man-to-man moment with my youngest. I like that I have that trust. I like that I have that opportunity for him. I mean, I'm not saying family barbers are bad, but I like the fact that I know my son is in good hands. Yeah. And I like the conversation not to change because I'm there, right? So for me to be able to step out, trust the brothers with my boy, come back in, you know, 30 minutes or whatever, and he's like, Mom, it was good, right? And that's cool. The family barber sort of, the conversation changes, the dynamic changes because the women are there or the other people are there, and so I like the men in the barbershop. I think it's important for our community.
Now, we still have our moments.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I think the barbershop is the barbershop. And when you bring family into the aspect, it's still the barbershop.
Exactly.
And just like you said, you're a female, like going to the barbershop to take your son. You like that. And typically the females that come to barbershops, they like going to barbershops. So, you know, so that's fine. You know, that works out great, you know, and in our barbershop, you know, although we have a braider now, and she does male and female, of course, you know, with the locks and the dreads and the braids and stuff like that. But once again, that person that comes in there, female, she likes coming to the barbershop.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
I just had a question from my Uncle Keith. I was looking at a picture in our house. And grandma's house, and I thought it was you, but it was actually Dad. He was looking just like you. Can you comment on that picture from the St. Louis? Right you have it with you from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch?
These are pictures. I mean, you guys, you can pass them around.
Do you have the one from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch? But it was actually Dad, 19. And it looked like Keith, and I was like, Uncle Keith, is that you?
My dad, that's 19.
Which one is your dad?
The one that looked like me.
But the one I was commenting on was the one from the Post-Dispatch, is sitting right there as soon as you walk in the door, before you go into the dining room.
The one from the Post-Dispatch was a picture that was done. Dad was sitting in the barber chair and I was standing behind him. And that was in maybe once again, the Gumby haircut was out.
Oh, that was.
So why were y'all in the papers?
Because they were doing articles on family-owned businesses.
Okay.
They did a series of articles on family-owned businesses, but also, once again, the gentleman who, at that time, and he's deceased, he worked for the Post-Dispatch. He was my client. And they had to do stories on family-owned business. They had a series that went on for maybe the course of a month or something like that. And every week, they featured a different family. And we were featured, so that was what that was about.
You have cut my hair, my kids' hair, so. And then my son, he's deaf. He sent his friend down and I told him.
He sure did.
So he started sending some of his deaf friends to you to get his hair cut.
Definitely, definitely.
Well,
You can pass them around for someone else. I'll look at it. All right.
do you use your respective barbershops as platforms to engage with and strengthen the wider community? And if so, how?
I'm sorry, to strengthen what?
Do you use your respective barbershops as platforms to engage with and strengthen the wider community? And if so, how?
The wider?
Is it wider or whiter?
No.
Wide.
Okay, yeah, wider. I thought she was saying, I'm sorry, I thought you were saying wider. I was gonna say I have white clients. I don't, you know. Yeah, I mean, you know, like with some of the programs and what the sister was speaking on with the back to school cuts for kids, where we get some of the kids in the community. And we partnered in with the Cherokee Recreational Center. And what we do is we get the children before school starts, those who want to come, cut their hair, as well as make sure that they have all of their medical taken care of, that they get the library cards, that they have book bags and pencils and notebooks and different things like that. So that's one way in which we kind of get out and somewhat touch the community. Do you mean in that sense, or do you mean, okay, yeah. So that's one way we reach out to the community. Just one of the ways.
And we, at my shop, we've done haircuts for the homeless. We even did, for years I did haircuts for AIDS patients, back to school haircuts, people who were recently released from the penal system, you know, discounted or whatever. So in that way, we've done that, just let alone with just the day-to-day casual assistance of the people that you may run into, you know, whatever it may be, whatever circumstances may come about, if it's something that's reasonable that you can maybe assist them or help them with. Because as a barber, you're gonna be asked 1,000 times for something, period, you know, and that's, you know.
With the advent of mass distributed razors and the increased tendency of individuals to move or settle in a different community than the one they grew up in, what do you foresee in regards to the future of the barbershop?
Repeat that again.
Now that we have like mass distributed razors and people tending to move out of the communities that they grew up in, what do you foresee for the future of the barbershop?
I see it as a continuously growing business. I don't think that there's anything that's dwindling the barber business yet. I mean, you could drive right up the street and I'm sure you run right into a barbershop. You know, so as a matter of fact, just to give you an example, I have a barbershop maybe 2-3 doors down from me, you know, but they don't affect our business. You know, we don't affect their business. There's enough clients and people out here for everyone. You know, so when they move into the community, they're always looking for another barbershop. So they may have left their community and were going to the barber that they were normally used to, and they want to find someone that's just as equally good or even better. So I don't see it going anywhere. I see the business growing. And, you know, from my travels and going different places like that, hey, I see students coming out of barber school all the time, and shops opening and closing and on a regular. And hopefully we can have a lot more that stay, you know, but yeah, I see them opening and closing all the time. I don't think the business is going anywhere.
I think we have a question over here.
I think this conversation is obviously incredibly compelling, and I think it's something that, you know, Hurvin was thinking through quite a bit when he was making these paintings. And I was wondering what the two of you thought about based on your own personal histories when you saw these paintings. You know, what were the kinds of things that came into your head? Were you questioning their point of origin, or the fact that he's not American, or what kinds of cross-cultural relationships kind of came to the fore for you when in the presence of this work?
Well, for me to see his paintings and read a little bit about his background, it definitely parallels where my father began in the business. You know, I think the time period, of course, they go back into the 1800s, of course, but the time period was around the 40s, I think, that they basically are backdrop from. And to look at the paintings and see, especially the one with the clippers on the hooks and stuff like that, it reminded me of the shop on Vanderbilt when we were on Vanderbilt in West Pine. So it was definitely something that parallel and was very relatable to, I think, my father's path and what I've seen in the barbershops. You know, it was great.
Well, for me, once again, learning a little bit about his history and what was his inspiration behind the paintings, it was a common thread to what goes on even in our communities. You know, there isn't any difference except probably a language barrier, so to speak. But other than that, it's completely the same. You know, and the struggles have been the same, you know, so I can completely identify with it.
That's great. And, you know, you also mentioned the word backdrop in your answer, which is the title of Hurvin's show. And it's just so interesting that your visceral response to the work and your own history kind of really cohered around a title that, you know, was invented from an artist working across the Atlantic. So thank you for being here as well. I really appreciate it.
Last, but certainly not least, is barbershop one word or two words? And what, if any, is the significance of the distinction?
Wow.
You know, you answer that one, bro.
The word, remember this, the word isn't barbershop, the word is the shop. That was my dad's word, the shop. And I mean, it's definitely a very important part of, once again, the community and it, you know, like I say, you know, it's one word, the shop. It's not the barbershop, it's the shop. Let me end it with that.
I say it's three words. It's either I'm going to the barber, or I'm going to the shop, or I'm going to the barber shop. So I think it's a personal preference.
Let me ask the question: what's the likelihood that it's going to continue? People always want to be well groomed.
Absolutely.
Men and women, you know, always. You know, we went through times when we had afros, but even those, everything. It was always trimmed. You know, guys started getting their faces, you know, cut in the barbershop. But people always want to be well groomed. Most people, not all people. so, you know, the future is there. The future is there. It's going to continue.
Yeah. Yes, I do. I have my own line of straight razors, as a matter of fact.
I know Keith does, and a lot of a lot of barbers don't come with the straight edge.
But for the barber business, when you say the straight edge, you know, a lot of services that my dad did, 50 years ago, they're coming back.
They're coming back.
So services are even
Yeah.
increasing. I'm doing facials now that my dad used to do when I was 11 years old, you know. And as guys, they get introduced, and like, what is that? What's going on?
Yeah.
Oh, this is a mud facial, you know. And it's like, oh, wow. I mean, it works. It works.
Be a spa salon. You can go.
Hey, you know, it's the barbershop, you know.
So I know that we're just kind of scratching the surface of this conversation. It's been really, really great. But we have reached 3 p.m. We're actually kind of going over 3 p.m. So I don't want to keep everybody here. Now, obviously, if the conversation wants to continue, which I'm sure it will, I'm sure they would be happy to stick around a little bit longer for more conversation and questions. And yes, ma'am.
I have a quick question. The artist, where is he now? Where is the artist?
London.
In London.
He lives and works in London. So I just want to kind of, I'm sure Portia's just scratching the surface of her questions as well, but I just want to thank Rance, Keith, and Portia for being here. If we can just give them a round of applause, please. And please stick around. I mean, if you guys haven't seen the shows, I'm sure you guys did, but go see the shows again, go to our cafe, hang out. Welcome to the museum. Stay in the museum, hang out. Thank you so much.
Can I ask one quick question? Sure. And I was just wondering, what made the artist want to display them here? Maybe there's a connection. That he wanted to display them here, at this gallery in St. Louis. This gallery.
It's a great question, actually. You know what? When I came here, I really developed a 3-year program, and as part of that 3-year program, race was very much part of it. And for me, Hurvin is the first of 3 major artists that will think that through. So when I was having these conversations with Hurvin, and I've known Hurvin for a really long time, and he knows how important his work is to me, and I wanted to do work that would matter on the ground here in St. Louis. I'm a New Yorker who's worked in California, and this is an incredibly compelling job for me as what I call an Americanist, which is kind of slightly tongue-in-cheek, because when you say you're an Americanist, you mostly refer to the 19th century. So a lot of my work personally thinks through these issues of race and cultural identity. And so for me, Hurvin was an incredibly important painter. We've had this dialogue, and he wanted to be here on the ground in St. Louis where his practice could really resonate and have a sense of social and cultural agency. So, and to be honest, this is the first exhibition of his work to originate in an American institution. He had a show at the Tate, which traveled to the Studio Museum in Harlem, but there wasn't another organization in America that was doing this kind of work, and I really wanted it to be here, and he really wanted it to be here. And also, you know, CAM occupies a really important space nationally. This is an incredibly experimental and forward-thinking institution, and he knew that. And we have a lot of reach. St. Louis has a great reach across the country in that.
Excuse me, I have one question. My name is Tommy, but I noticed that most barbers, they don't get in discussion with religion or politics. Why do most barbers?
What I was taught. Now we would speak about politics, and you know, my dad he didn't never disallow it, but it was more so, you know, when you start speaking on religion, you know, you get into a subject that. You know, and I think that's the whole thing. And because you're there, you're providing a service. And like I say, the biggest thing is to listen. You know, because some people will talk about religion all day. You know, but yeah, and as a barber, our thing is to listen more so sometimes than to get involved in the conversation. Let the conversation do what it's going to do for itself. As long as it doesn't really get out of hand or offend anybody, then you know, let it go.
Thank you again, everyone, for coming. I think we'll take it offline so we can give them some break. But